A passenger from a luxury condo building screamed, "Thief!" as she exited Richard Miller's rideshare. The accusation of theft was made. The single father trembled but showed the dashcam footage. What appeared there shattered the lie forever. Richard Miller adjusted his rearview mirror for the third time that Friday night, feeling the weight of his 38 years on his aching back after 12 hours driving through the streets of Los Angeles, California. The app pinged again, announcing another ride. Bel Air to Beverly Hills. 5-star passenger. He sighed in relief. After 3 years as a rideshare driver, he knew that highly rated passengers usually meant smooth, trouble-free trips. What Richard didn't imagine was that this particular ride would change his life forever. Lauren Hayes entered the silver Honda Civic carrying an air that screamed privilege. Impeccable blonde hair, a designer dress that cost more than Richard's monthly income, and a diamond bracelet that sparkled even in the dim light of the car's dashboard. She settled into the back seat without a greeting, merely confirming the destination with a dry, authoritative, "Beverly Hills, Rodeo Drive." Richard greeted her politely, as he always did. 3 years driving for a rideshare app had taught him that cordiality and professionalism were his best weapons against the prejudice he faced daily. It didn't matter how many times he heard comments about rideshare drivers said with disdain, or how many passengers treated the car as if it were just any taxi. He maintained his dignity because he knew why he was there: for his son, Gabe's future. During the drive, Lauren chatted on the phone about a charity gala she was organizing, casually mentioning expenses of $15,000 as if they were pocket change, while Richard mentally calculated how many rides he'd need to earn that amount. He, meanwhile, was figuring out how much more he needed to pay Gabe's college tuition. Gabe Miller, 18, was in his 3rd semester of civil engineering at a private university that consumed more than half of his father's earnings. The boy was brilliant, always had been. From a young age, he showed an aptitude for numbers and construction, building elaborate structures with building blocks while other children played video games. When Gabe's mother passed away from cancer 5 years ago, Richard promised her on her hospital bed that their son wouldn't miss out on opportunities due to lack of resources. That's why he left his accountant job at a small firm. The fixed salary didn't cover the rising expenses, and the flexibility of the rideshare app allowed him to work more hours when needed. The first few months were humiliating. Former accounting colleagues would see him driving and make comments. Neighbors whispered about the professional who became a driver. But Richard swallowed his wounded pride every time he saw Gabe studying late, determined to honor his father's sacrifice. The dashcam installed on the windshield was a safety investment Richard made after a few uncomfortable situations with unruly passengers. It cost $300 that he saved up for weeks, but the peace of mind of having everything recorded was worth every penny. The small camera recorded not just the road, but also the interior of the vehicle, capturing audio and video of all his rides. When they arrived at the destination on Rodeo Drive, Lauren put her cell phone back in her purse and prepared to exit. That's when something happened that Richard didn't immediately understand. She quickly fiddled with her bracelet, as if adjusting it, but the movement seemed odd. A second later, she began frantically searching her bag. "My bracelet!" she suddenly shrieked, her voice laced with panic and accusation. "My diamond bracelet is gone!" Richard's stomach dropped. "What do you mean, ma'am? You were wearing it when you got in the car." "Exactly." Lauren stepped out of the vehicle and stood in front of the driver's window, pointing an accusing finger. "And now it's gone. You stole my bracelet." The accusation echoed down the busy street like a gunshot. Some passers-by stopped to watch the scene. Richard felt the world spin. In 3 years of ride-sharing, he had never faced anything like this. His reputation, his livelihood, the trust he had built ride by ride, all threatened by an accusation he knew was false. "Ma'am, I didn't take anything of yours. I can open the car for you to check." "I won't touch anything. You must have hidden it already." Lauren was agitated, and her voice drew more and more attention. "I'm calling the police right now." The situation quickly escalated from embarrassing to a nightmare. Lauren pulled out her phone and started filming Richard, yelling about the thieving driver, as she called the police. Pedestrians stopped to watch the spectacle, some recording with their own phones. Richard felt the familiar tightness in his chest that always came when he felt humiliated, but this time it was different. This time it wasn't just about him. "I have a son in college," he tried to explain, keeping his hands visible and his voice calm, even with his heart pounding. "Ma'am, please, let's resolve this without public exposure. I can show you I don't have anything." "Of course you'd say that. Thieves always deny it." Lauren continued filming, narrating for the video as if it were a news report. "People, look. I took a rideshare with a driver who stole my $20,000 bracelet. He's here denying it, but it was obviously him. $20,000. The amount echoed in Richard's mind like a punch. It was more than his earnings from 4 months of intense work. How could someone accuse another person of stealing something so valuable, so brazenly, knowing they were lying? The police arrived in 15 minutes that felt like hours. During the wait, Lauren didn't stop recording and telling anyone who would listen about the criminal driver. She called her husband, her friends, always repeating the same version. She had gotten into the rideshare with the bracelet and gotten out without it. Richard watched the people around him. Some expressions showed sympathy for him. Others seemed to have already condemned him. He knew that regardless of the outcome there, the videos were already circulating. In the age of social media, a viral accusation could destroy a life in a matter of hours. The officers, Sergeant Davis and Officer Rodriguez, listened to Lauren first. She presented her version with the ease of someone accustomed to being believed without question. She showed the videos she had recorded, emphasized the value of the bracelet, and mentioned the address of her condo building as if it were a credential of her status. When it was Richard's turn, he felt small. The officers' uniforms, the judgmental stares, the feeling of having to prove innocence when it should be presumed. All of it was part of an injustice he knew well, but which now reached devastating proportions. "Mr. Miller," Sergeant Davis said in a professional but not hostile tone, "the lady is accusing you of theft. Can we search your vehicle?" "Of course, you can search everything." Richard opened door by door, the trunk, the glove compartment. The officers methodically checked every inch of the car. They found nothing, obviously, but Lauren was undeterred. "He hid it somewhere, or already passed it to someone," she insisted, as if the absence of evidence were proof of guilt. "You have to arrest him." It was at that moment Richard remembered the dashcam. The small device was still on, silently recording the entire commotion. It had registered the whole ride, from the moment Lauren got into the car until that very moment. "Officers," Richard said, pointing to the camera on the windshield. "I have a dashcam. It recorded the entire trip." Officer Rodriguez raised an eyebrow, interested. "Can we see the recording?" "Of course. I'll just unplug it here." Richard carefully removed the device and accessed the menu to locate the ride's file. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from a mixture of hope and indignation that swelled in his chest. Lauren, who until then had maintained an arrogant posture, seemed slightly bothered by the possibility of video review. "That doesn't prove anything. He could have edited it." "Ma'am, it's a real-time recording," Sergeant Davis explained. "You can't edit a dashcam feed on the fly." As Richard searched for the correct file on the device's small screen, he thought of Gabe. His son would be studying at that moment, probably preparing assignments for Monday. He had no idea his father was being accused of theft on the street, being filmed like a criminal, having his reputation shattered by a woman who clearly had never needed to work a day in her life to support a family. "Here," Richard said, handing the dashcam to the sergeant. "The file is time-stamped. It started at 9:47 p.m. and ended at 10:23 p.m. What would appear on that recording would change everything." Sergeant Davis connected the dashcam to the patrol car's tablet to review the recording on a larger screen. A small group of onlookers formed around them, including Lauren, who maintained a confident expression but with a trace of nervousness in her eyes that didn't go unnoticed by Richard. The recording began exactly at 9:47 p.m. The image showed Richard parking in front of the luxury condo building in Bel Air, awaiting his passenger. The audio captured the ambient sound and his calm breathing as he checked the location on the app. Gradually, details that seemed irrelevant at the time began to make sense. "Look, there she is getting into the car," Officer Rodriguez pointed out, watching Lauren settle into the back seat. The diamond bracelet clearly sparkled on her right wrist, visible every time she gestured during her phone calls. During the first 20 minutes of the trip, everything proceeded normally. Richard drove professionally, Lauren talked on the phone about extravagant amounts for charity galas, the bracelet always present and gleaming with every movement. The audio captured every word, every disguised tone of disdain when she referred to staff and service providers. But it was at the 34-minute mark of the recording that something extraordinary happened. Lauren ended a call and put her phone back in her purse. For a few seconds, she believed she was unobserved. It was then that she did something that shocked everyone present. Carefully, she removed the bracelet from her own wrist and hid it in the side of the seat, between the upholstery and the car's frame. The silence that followed was deafening. Lauren instantly paled, realizing her charade had been captured in high definition, with clear audio and an official timestamp. The arrogance vanished from her face, replaced by pure panic. That's a setup," she stammered, but her voice no longer carried conviction. "He edited the video." "Ma'am," Sergeant Davis interjected with a serious tone, "the recording is continuous, with an automatic timestamp. There's no way to edit it in real time, and we can clearly see you hiding the bracelet in the seat." The crowd of onlookers began to murmur. Some people who had recorded the initial accusation now recorded the revelation. Officer Rodriguez searched the side of the seat where the video showed Lauren hiding the jewelry, and there it was. The diamond bracelet, exactly where she had placed it. Richard felt a mixture of relief and indignation that almost made him cry. Relief at having his innocence proven incontestably. Indignation at having been subjected to such public humiliation by a deliberate and calculated lie. "Why?" was all he could manage to ask, looking directly at Lauren. "Why did you do this to me?" Lauren didn't answer. She was too busy trying to call someone, probably a lawyer, while the officers explained that she would be taken in for questioning regarding filing a false police report and defamation. "Do you wish to press charges against her, Mr. Miller?" Sergeant Davis asked. Richard thought for a moment. He could sue, demand compensation, make an example of that woman. But he thought of Gabe, of the energy that would be spent in court, the time he would lose away from work. He also thought of the lesson he wanted to teach his son about dignity and forgiveness. "I just want people to know the truth," he replied. "To see that I am an honest, hard-working man." At that moment, one of the people who had recorded the commotion approached. She was a well-dressed, middle-aged woman who had watched everything from the beginning. "Sir, I filmed everything here on my phone," she said, showing her device. "I'm going to post it on social media to clear your name. What this woman did is unacceptable." "I recorded it too," said a young man who looked like a college student. "Man, that's messed up. You're working honestly, and she's making this up." Within minutes, the real story began to spread. The dashcam videos were shared, and people who witnessed the scene posted their own versions. The narrative completely changed, from thieving driver to hard-working father unjustly wronged by a lying socialite. Richard returned home that dawn exhausted, but with a strange feeling in his chest. It wasn't just relief. It was something bigger. For the first time in years, he felt that his dignity had not only been preserved, but publicly recognized and defended by people he didn't even know. What he didn't imagine was that dashcam would do much more than clear his name. It would change his life in a way he never could have predicted. The weekend passed like a digital hurricane. The dashcam video spread across social media with impressive speed. Justice for Richard started trending on Twitter, group chats shared the story, and TikTok exploded with reactions of indignation against Lauren and support for the honest driver. Gabe arrived home Saturday afternoon to find his father on the sofa, looking at his phone with a perplexed expression. The 18-year-old, tall and slender like his father, immediately realized something had happened. "Dad, are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." Richard showed his son his phone, displaying the hundreds of messages of support he was receiving. People from all over the country sent words of encouragement, offers of help, and most importantly, recognition for the integrity he demonstrated throughout the entire situation. "Dad, you've become a national hero." Gabe laughed as he read the comments. "Look here, this is the kind of dad we want in America. Honest and dignified worker, an example of character." But what truly surprised Richard was a call he received Monday morning. On the other end of the line was Sarah Jenkins, internship coordinator at Almeida and Associates Construction, one of the largest engineering firms in Los Angeles. "Mr. Miller, this is Sarah Jenkins from Almeida and Associates Construction. Do you have a son named Gabe Miller, a civil engineering student?" Richard's heart pounded. "Yes, I do. Has something happened?" "On the contrary, I saw your story on social media. I was incredibly impressed by your dignity and honesty. Coincidentally, your son had applied for an internship with us a few weeks ago." Richard remembered. Gabe had sent resumes to dozens of companies, but few had responded. Paid engineering internships were competitive, and his son had no connections or referrals. "We'd like to talk to Gabe about a special opportunity," Sarah continued. "It's not just about the internship. Our company values people of integrity, and clearly that's something that runs in your family." The conversation stretched for 15 minutes. Sarah explained that she had followed the entire repercussion of the case, reading comments from people who knew Richard as a driver, all speaking about his politeness, punctuality, and honesty. Modern companies, she said, looked not just for technical competence, but for moral character. Mr. Miller, may I ask you a personal question? Why did you decide not to press charges against that woman? Richard thought about the answer. Because my dignity doesn't need her humiliation to exist. I want to teach my son that our strength comes from who we are, not from whom we manage to defeat. There was a pause on the other end of the line. You possess a rare wisdom, Mr. Miller. Gabe will start next Monday as an intern, but we want to propose something more. Sarah explained that the company was creating a pilot social responsibility program, offering full scholarships to children of workers who demonstrated exemplary values. Gabe would be the first beneficiary, with a scholarship that would cover not only tuition fees but also course materials and a monthly stipend. When Richard told Gabe, the young man was speechless. For years he had watched his father sacrifice, work double shifts, accept silent humiliations, all to fund his studies. Now that dashcam that cost $300 saved penny by penny had become the key to a future that seemed impossible. Dad, Gabe said with teary eyes, you always told me that honesty is the most precious thing we have. Now I understand why. That night, Richard turned on his dashcam for another work shift, but something had changed. He no longer drove just to pay bills or support his son. He drove with the certainty that dignity and honesty were not just abstract values, but real forces that could transform lives. Lauren's story had ended at the police station with charges of defamation. Richard's story was just beginning. 3 months after the incident, Richard Miller's life had changed surprisingly, but not in the way many people might imagine. He continued driving for the rideshare app, not out of absolute necessity, but by choice. Gabe's scholarship had eased the financial pressure, allowing him to work with less anxiety and more purpose. What truly changed was the recognition. Richard became a reference among rideshare drivers in the area. New drivers sought his advice on safety, customer service, and how to handle difficult situations. He always emphasized the importance of the dashcam, not just as legal protection, but as a silent witness to the dignity with which they carried out their profession. Gabe was thriving at Almeida and Associates Construction. Sarah Jenkins became a mentor, impressed by the young man's dedication and humility. He not only completed his internship tasks, but brought a unique perspective on social construction and corporate responsibility that impressed the senior engineers. Son, Richard said one Tuesday morning, as they had coffee together before Gabe left for his internship. You know I'm proud of you, right? I know, Dad, but I'm the one who should be proud. Gabe held his father's hand. You faced that situation with a dignity few would possess. You didn't yell, you didn't lose control, you didn't seek revenge. You just proved your innocence and moved forward. The dashcam that saved Richard became a symbol in his small community. Other drivers began investing in similar equipment, not just for protection, but inspired by the example that simple technology in the right hands could defend the truth. Lauren Hayes faced the legal consequences of her actions. In addition to charges for filing a false police report, she had to contend with social media exposure. Her image as a respected socialite was permanently tarnished by the public demonstration of her dubious character. Ironically, she attempted to sue some people for emotional distress due to the negative repercussions, but her lawyers explained that the truth does not constitute defamation. Sarah Jenkins became more than a coordinator for Gabe. She became a family friend. She frequently called Richard, not for professional matters, but to talk about values, upbringing, and how companies could contribute positively to society. Richard, she said during one of those calls, you made me rethink a lot about how we evaluate people. Your reaction that day showed a character that isn't learned in college. It's something that comes from upbringing, from values passed down from father to son. The construction company's scholarship program expanded, benefiting other working-class families. Gabe actively participated in the selection, always emphasizing that technical competence was important, but moral integrity was fundamental. In an interview for a local news outlet, Richard reflected on the entire experience. I always taught Gabe that our worth doesn't come from what we have, but from who we are. That night was a test I didn't even know I was taking. Thank God I passed. The dashcam continued recording all of Richard's rides, a silent witness to hundreds of human interactions. Some tense, others joyful, but all conducted with the same politeness and professionalism that characterized his work. Gabe would graduate in 2 years and already had a job offer from the construction company. His college classmates admired him not only for his academic performance, but for his family's story of overcoming adversity. Many knew the story of the rideshare driver father who proved his honesty through a $300 camera. "Dad," Gabe said in a recent conversation, "when I have my kids, I'm going to tell them the story of the dash cam. I'll explain that dignity isn't something others give or take from us. It's something we carry within." Richard smiled, adjusting his rearview mirror before starting another shift. The small camera blinked its red light, ready to record. Not because he expected more problems, but because he had learned that the truth always prevails when we have the courage to preserve it. That night, as he drove through the streets of Los Angeles, Richard Miller wasn't just a rideshare driver. He was a man who had transformed an unjust accusation into a life lesson, a humiliation into an example of dignity, and a simple dash cam into a symbol that honesty and hard work always find their recognition. The city outside continued to rush by, but inside that Honda Civic, a man drove on, at peace with his choices and proud of the legacy he was building for his son. Richard Miller's story became much more than a viral social media case. It became a powerful reminder that dignity isn't a privilege of social class, but an achievement of character. A single father, working honestly to support his son, faced the most cowardly of accusations and responded not with outrage, but with the silent strength of someone who knows who they are. Gabe Miller would graduate in civil engineering 2 years later, carrying not just his diploma, but the unbreakable values his father taught him. Almeida and Associates Construction expanded its social program to dozens of families, always remembering that character cannot be negotiated or bought. And Richard? He continued driving, not because he had to, but because he chose to. Because he understood that honest work, no matter what it is, carries a nobility that no false accusation can tarnish. Sometimes, a small $300 camera is worth more than all the $20,000 jewels, because it records something priceless, the truth.